Hello, and welcome to In My Experience podcast. I am Piperlyne,
And I'm Sonya Lee.
and we are here with you today to talk
Again.
about once a week.
Every Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel.
That's right. And we are here to talk about. What are we here to talk about?
I think we're here to talk about the present moment.
And power.
And power. And
or
how,
empowerment.
right, how that the present moment is the most empowered space you can be in.
So let's use definition. So as we're talking about the present moment, what do you mean by that? What are you saying with that?
When I say the present moment, I mean I'm not thinking about anything from the past. I'm not thinking about anything in the future. Actually really not thinking. My senses and, spidey senses are open. And I'm just taking in everything that I hear, that I see, that I smell, that I sense in this moment, and allowing myself to just be a part of whatever, whenever I am. And it's almost like when you dip into the swimming pool and at first it's really cold, but then once you jump all the way down to your shoulders and then you pipe back up, you go, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. Right? I acclimate to the temperature. I acclimate to the energy of the moment. Oh, I'm putting that one on a t-shirt. That's what I mean.
All right.
How about you? What does that mean to you?
Being present without a agenda or without an agenda. Right?
Yeah.
So without a judgment, without a thing that you are trying to make be or make not be, or talking about or thinking about the things that you don't like about the present moment, and simply acknowledging what is.
11:22. I love that. Acknowledging what is. There are some really big shifts and changes that are happening in our world and in our inner world. Maybe some of you have, caught on to this, or maybe not. What we were talking about before we started the podcast today was, how do you hang on to that? How do you have that state of being, of feeling, to be present with you all the time?
Right.
Because you can get that moment, but to hold or maintain that moment can be where you can run into a sticky wicket.
That's the practice and the discipline.
Yes, it
of
is.
the whole thing.
And
and in unison even. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that's where surrender and trust comes into play. Someone forgot to turn off her phone.
Hello.
Because sometimes what is present before you isn't always fun or easy or comfortable.
Right.
And,
sometimes it's downright painful.
Right. And I've had moments myself where it's like, okay, where I'll actually argue with my people and go, okay, but I've got this issue I have to deal with right now.
But you don't understand. If I don't do something right now, then,
right.
and they're like, what? What's going to happen?
Exactly.
What?
I'm down here to have a human experience, which means I get to have these emotions and feelings. I'm being human right now. Okay.
Go for it.
Let's see how that works for you with what you were doing before you had that human moment.
Right.
And again, we are here. I find it quite, inconsistent and, I don't even know, incongruent, I guess is the best word I can come up with. at times to think that, I'm both supposed to feel this wide range of emotions and at the same time be so detached from all of the human thing that it's like, how, I can't
Ironic,
straddle.
isn't it?
Yeah, I
Isn't
can't.
it ironic?
Isn't it ironic? I can't straddle this fence. I'm chafing.
It's funny that you said that, because in the work that I've been doing myself, this past week, I'm very focused on addressing being in the present moment. More so because I'm dealing with some old issues. Anyway, I had that exact same thought when I had this vision in a meditation where I was straddling a creek.
Oh.
Or, like a small river. I saw it, I'm like, oh, I can just step over it, right? A small river, a creek. So I go to step over it, so now I'm straddling it, and I don't have the strength or the agility to get 1 foot either way.
Right.
So, and I can't, I'm straddling.
You can't go back, you can't go
I can't do
forward.
anything. I'm like, I can just fall
I
down
totally see it.
into the water, right? And so, of all people, I'm like, okay, I need help in this meditation. And so, of all people that showed up to assist me was Jesus. So, hang with that however you like.
Thank you, Yeshua.
But he came up, and he's like, yeah, so you look like you need some help. And I'm like, yes, please, I would love some help. Can you help me do this?
We're going to walk on water or what?
Yeah, come on, just let me touch your hand.
Right.
So he's like, absolutely, I can help you. And he throws down a piece of plywood under one of my feet. He said that should give you enough of a foundation that you can step over. I'm like, seriously? So this person who has everything available to him, is going to give me a piece of plywood to stand on so I can figure it out by myself.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me, shrugged, and smiled. And so, ironically, that was I don't know, maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago that I had this. And I remember it so clearly. And that's how I feel right now.
Well, I have to say, I was at Lowe's over the weekend, and plywood is up to $58 a sheet. So that is not an unsubstantial gift to receive. I'm just saying.
I stand corrected.
Maybe even, it might have been a little cheaper, but in today's market, that would not have been a cheap aid to receive from our good friend Jesus the Christ.
So he is not a slouch, Piper.
No, he's not he's not. He will spend the money. He'll drop a dime on you if you need it.
He did invest in me, so don't take it badly. Yes. So I hope.
No, some of you may think that we are being irreverent, and we are
and
not.
We are.
But we are, but we aren't.
So there's that.
I can't even right now. These are joy guides. They're
goodness.
like, this is so funny. And I'll tell you why. Because life is meant to be a joy. I've talked about this before. And I truly believe that laughter can transcend so many things. We've seen it, a nervous laughter, laughing at an insane situation.
It's an energetic release, just like anything else.
It absolutely is. And I think that, the Lord's name has been used in vain far too often. And my relationship that I've come to know and understand with him is he really is a much more friendly, open, fun-loving guy than anything's ever been written about him. And he is not above or below, throwing a little, irony in there for you.
Yes.
Because he too understands what it is to be a spirit in human form.
Right.
One of the few. Think about it. None of the angels have ever been in human form.
Right.
Well, Santaphon and Metatron. But that's it.
Right.
Everybody else, right. And they ascended, so they didn't even die. So they kind of had a different situation too. But he actually came down from the source. There's no other being that has ever come down through all those dimensions. Right now I'm up to about 24. Actually, I've only gotten to 22. But I can see 24. 23 and 24. They're there. I haven't quite broke the barrier yet. There could be more. This is just how far I've been able to go. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for argument's sake, 24 dimensions. Someone coming from the 24th dimension all the way down to the 3rd dimension. That's like the bends from a deep dive 20,000 leagues under the sea, okay? This is not something that a normal human can do. And he did it. And he kept a smile on his face, and he brought unconditional love. So I'm just saying, when I look at my problems in my life, I think about that, and I think if Jesus could keep a smile on his face when he compressed his ass that small, I got nothing to complain about here.
There you go.
But I usually do anyway. But anyway, that's when I'm in those present moments and I'm being really, a good spirit. What does it mean to be a good spirit, really?
I've never used that term. I don't know.
Oh. Well, you've heard of good sport. This is a good spirit.
Okay.
And I think a good spirit is a soul, a being that understands that life is fun and easy and a joy, and also an Alanis Morissette song.
Isn't it ironic?
Because it is all of those things on purpose, right? Nobody's punking you. Nobody's punishing you. There might be a little stop hitting yourself. I'm just saying. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. But we all decide and agree upon what we are going to come here to do. And if you follow astrology, there are a lot of out there that will say our natal chart is our blueprint for the life experience that we want to have here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we work through those things quicker than others. Right? Sometimes we get through sun, moon, ascendant. Whoo! Now it's time for you to deal with Saturn and Pluto, right?
And Chiron and...
Right. And we've been having these experiences here in the last, I'm going to say probably 10 years or so. Because if you go back to Uranus and Aries, and when it started, and then making that transition to Uranus and Taurus, but then we've also had a couple of north nodes that have given us some interesting, we had Leo, and then we had Cancer, and now we have Gemini. Mm-hmm. And those have also allowed for us to kind of look at our own fallacies.
Right.
In what we call life here on Earth. I mean, this is all by design globally, and then you can go look at your own individual natal chart and see how it's working or not for you, and then make the appropriate adjustments, right? I mean, that's what we do, or what we've been working on, rather.
Right.
And we all went through the hell that was North Node in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn, and I feel like what that helped us to do was break down the structures and the frameworks and the belief systems so that we could make some new choices and decisions for what direction we want to go now, right? In the North Node in Gemini, it's sort of like the twins. And sometimes you have twins that are like identical and read their own minds. And sometimes you have twins that are like, I don't want to be anything like my twin. I want to have my own identity. I want to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And so we are twins in our minds right now. We're letting go of this conditioning of what we thought we knew to be true to make room for this new understanding of what could be true. Does that make sense?
And yeah, well, it does to me.
Okay, good.
And what could be true is limited only by what we believe could be true. And that's where I am in my experience of life right now, is that I mean, ever since I was a child, I would tell my mother I can be whatever I want. And I meant that, but I didn't mean that in the way a lot of people mean it. I didn't mean that in, I can grow up and be...
Right.
Whatever.
President if I want to be.
Right. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but that's not what I meant. I meant that as a child, I had a belief that I could change form. I had a belief that I could create things. And so, Sun in Pisces, I was a very magical thinking little girl, and I'm a very magical thinking big girl right now.
But you're also a shapeshifter, so there's that too.
Well, there is that too. So that is my belief. But even with that, I still sit in the paradigm of what I believe is possible. Now, what I believe is possible may be more than what other people
Right.
believe are possible, but it's still limited.
Sure.
Because it's still limited by what I know or what I know that I don't know. It's because I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
And so that's where the whole idea of being in the present moment and powerful resonate for me as a perfect match and a perfect way to be for me right now.
Well, and the yogis talk about that too, right? And it's like when you get to that point of understanding or enlightenment or whatever, you everything changes for you, and people are like, "Oh, I can't wait till I get there." It's so very interesting though, because everything changes and nothing changes.
Absolutely.
What changes is that belief.
Right.
What changes is that attachment. Everything else in your life can stay exactly the way it was in the moment before you had that awareness. But you are no longer the same.
Right.
Because of that awareness.
And because you are no longer the same, your reality is no longer the same.
Right. And then sometimes it's just a matter of, the time, which is an illusion, but, to see that change. And we have seen, and we've talked about before, where you can have things change and shift in an instant. Like, I was sharing with her that I've been taking a lot of trips lately. And when I decided that I just wanted to take the trips and I didn't worry about how I was going to pay for the trips, my Venmo account has become my traveling funds. And so I get a little bit of money built up in there, and then, because we use that for payment exchanges and things like that, and I just don't transfer it to the bank. And when I get a certain amount of money, then it's like, I'm going to go on a trip, and I use my Venmo card. And then I come back, and it's like, oh, I spent all my money in my Venmo account. And then next thing you know, a week or 2 or 3 weeks later, there's money in there again. And I had specifically asked that I wanted to travel and do fun things, and I didn't want it to have to come out of my household budget. And it has not.
Right.
So I'm actually living presently with this manifestation, and it's so very interesting to me because while it is wonderful and exciting, of course it is. And so it's what I wanted.
Right.
It's what I requested. It's what I manifested. So what's the big deal?
Right.
And that, I feel, for me, is the biggest shift. It's only a big deal because they don't have it, but when I have it, it just is. Right? And that's really hard to understand until you experience it.
Right.
Like, I get that. We've got lots of people out there that talk about manifesting. We've got lots of different, spiritual leaders that have talked about things and concepts and whatnot, and we all like, oh, yeah. The moment that you experience something that changes you, and if you go back and think about the steps that lead up for it, there are almost times where you can't really tell you exactly how it came about.
Right.
Like, I know there was some steps that I took. It's kind of like having a baby. Like, you know what labor is like when you're in it, but then afterwards those endorphins kick in and you don't remember shit except you got a beautiful baby.
And you're so in love.
Right? And all that pain is just gone now, and you don't think about it as much.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've literally had people say, I'm never doing this again. And then after a while, they're like, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
Because it lessens as you get away from it. And I feel like the same thing happens when we manifest. And I feel like at times that's why it can be such a fleeting, intangible unicorn. But it's not a unicorn. It's just a horse with an ice cream cone on its head that you put there. So what I have found, the one thing that is consistent is being present.
Right.
When I can so how do I do that? So I think about the thoughts that I'm having. right? So maybe I'm just going through doing whatever, I don't know, working on the computer. And I hear something, maybe on the TV or the radio or something I'm listening to on YouTube in the background, and it brings a thought to mind. And then that thought starts to roll down the lane, and then it goes tangent, 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 and then it lands on something that maybe is a little unpleasant. And then we do the whirly whirl all around that unpleasant thing. I look at it left and right and up and down and sideways, and I check under the hood, and I start the engine, and I kick the tires, and I do all that, and then I go, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? You don't need to buy a car. What are you doing? Except the car is my stinking thinking.
Right. Man, all sorts of investing. I mean, I do it too. All sorts of investing in that random idea that I don't even want anyway. And I'm putting energy, invest in it. And it's like, what? Do you want that? No. Well, then stop.
Right? Stop thinking about it then.
Stop. So I have a whole visual experience in my head of what I do to release that thought.
Do tell.
I chop it up in little pieces.
Oh, that's nice.
I chop it in little pieces, and then I just throw it to the universe, and I watch it just disintegrate and kind of just fall into place, because now it's not that terrible thing that I thought of anymore. It's just a potential. It's not, the idea itself isn't negative. So it can just go back to the field of everything and be recreated as something else.
Right.
So that is the visual.
I like that visual. That's a good visual. I usually just do my name mantra until I beat it down.
Well, I mean, we all have our own things, right?
Right.
We all have our own things.
And so the key is just bringing yourself back to the present moment.
Right.
Like recognizing as quickly as you can. And sometimes some thoughts are faster than others. You know, I've talked before about the little game in the bar where you put the quarter in and you hit start and then you hit stop to see how good your reflexes are. How good are your reflexes? Like, you know, do you need to give your keys to somebody else and let them drive you home? Or, you know, do you have, you know, reflexes of, you know, a ninja? And that's all you do. You don't beat yourself up for having the thought. You don't have to, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just go, oops, I got hooked. And now I'm back to the present moment.
Turn my focus. In Yoga Nidra, I mean, one of the things that we have talked about is the mind just thinks. And that's what it does. And there's no inherent problem with that. That's what it does. That's what it was built for.
Just like the heart just beats.
Right. So the mind thinks. And so a lot of people who are trying to be in the present moment or trying to meditate, they're like, well, I can't shut off my mind. And through practice and experience, I mean, absolutely sitting there with no thought. I mean, that's a beautiful, lovely
I get
feeling.
like 1 minute and I'm like, woohoo!
I know. It's like that rocks. But that time when there is thought, but you're not attached to it. One of the things that really resonated with me when I was going through my yoga nidra training was this visual that the instructor gave us of imagine sitting on a beach, right? And I have this beach that I go to in my head. And, it's comfortable. I've got my nice comfy lounge chair, my feet in the sand. And, the sand is white and the water is beautiful turquoise.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Right. So I'm just sitting
That
there.
breeze.
Yeah. And I can smell the ocean and its beautiful soft waves. And so I really got into that visual, just in case you didn't.
Right? Like I was hearing the seagulls.
Yes.
I was getting a little salt spray.
That's
that was
right.
delightful.
That's right. Yes, it's lovely. And then on the horizon, you see ships go by. And the ships are your thoughts. And so one of the things that she led us through was that, okay, in either, in your peripheral vision, in your mind, you see a ship that shows up in the horizon and just watch it go by. And there's no attachment. You're just watching, and those ships are your thoughts. So who the F cares if there's 85,000 ships going by on the ocean? Because you're not in them. You're not a part of it. You are just watching it go by, enjoying where you are. And that was such a powerful visual for me that if I find I'm going boom, 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 boom with my own thoughts, that if I can close my eyes and get myself into that, I don't have to do a full meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can attach to that experience, then they're just ships.
I love it. I used to always talk about the Labrador on the beach, right? My thoughts are the Labrador on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's chasing a stick, and it's chasing a waves, and it's chasing the seaweed, and it's chasing the kids, and it's chasing it's back to chasing the waves again, and then it's chasing the seagulls, and it's just the Labrador on the beach. And he's just and if you ever go to a beach and you ever watch a dog, like a Labrador, in their element, they're just so happy.
Yeah.
Right? So, one, I've taken my thoughts and turned them into a dog. And two, I've made them happy. So
and they're not so scary and overwhelming anymore.
And I just let that dog do his thing on the beach.
I love that.
While I'm
That's
sitting
wonderful.
there watching him do his thing.
Right.
I don't have to chase the dog. I don't have to tell the dog, come back here. I don't have to tell the dog to get out of the water. I don't have to tell the dog anything. It's just my thoughts are a Labrador on a beach. And it's like, hey, my favorite thing. Hey, I love this. Hey, I'm going to eat that. Hey, right? You can't be too serious or too somber with a Labrador. You just can't.
Right.
So these are the ways that I've created for myself these things to help me to deal with these oh so very serious, very Capricorn thinking feelings that have plagued me for most of my life.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say, because I was thinking about this when you were talking, is we often hear too from our clients and from friends and other people that it's really hard to do this because I just can't tune it out. And I had a thought when we were talking. If you are a parent or you are a spouse or partner, think about where you didn't hear something your wife said or you didn't hear something your kids said. Like they're making all this noise and you're like sitting there on a couch reading a book and you just completely tuned them out.
Right.
That's meditation.
So you can do it.
You can do it.
Right.
Because you've done it. Mm-hmm. I did it too. It was a skill set to when I didn't have all those kids that I had to tune out anymore. I had to relearn how to listen to people. Because that's how good I got at tuning that noise out.
Yeah.
Right? People are like, how can you do that? I just don't even hear it anymore.
How can I do what?
Right.
Did someone talk to me?
And then for years, they'd be like, you're not even listening to me. It's like, I'm so sorry. It was a habit I developed when I had 4 little boys, and I'm working on it. Please forgive me. What did you say? Sometimes my husband gets a little upset with me. But it is. It's like I got so good at doing that now, and again, this is also a thing that in that particular situation that kind of kept me out of the present moment too. Mm-hmm. I was in a present moment, but just inside my own little world.
Right.
Right? And cut off from everything else. And sometimes you have to do that to find yourself. But finding the balance between that inner world and your outer world is, if you allow it, can be quite a fun little challenge. Because one of the things that I always worried about, and you actually told me, is that if I didn't have chaos in my life, I would be bored.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I didn't like that at all. I'm not saying she was wrong. I'm saying I didn't like it.
I'm saying I didn't like it.
Because there's a little bit of truth in that.
Yeah.
Right? Because I could be lazy. If I didn't have anything to motivate me, I'd probably be a slug. No offense to slugs. So, problems activate my problem solver.
Right.
Right? So now I don't want problems, I want activities. Mm-hmm. The activities activate my Julie McCoy.
Julie McCoy. The Love Boat.
I am the activities director of my life.
I think it sounds lovely. Didn't we both say we both wanted to do that?
We did.
Yes,
we
that's
wanted
what
to
I
be the
thought.
cruise director of the Love Boat.
Absolutely.
But I think it was just a metaphor for how we wanted to live our life.
Well, I have been in that space of, and I've had that literal thought, if I don't, this was years ago, but if I don't, if I don't have problems to deal with, what the hell am I going to do with my life?
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so, I mean, I've got, looking at my astrology, I've got Mars and Aries in the 10th house, conjuncting my North Node in my 10th house. So it's like, it's the thing to do.
My whole purpose in life.
I have to do things.
Do things.
And if they're challenging, then that makes that part happy. And so then I would, if I don't have a challenging life, then I have a boring life. So this is something that I'm moving away from.
Well, and here's the thought that I just had too, because we both have Mars and Aries in the 10th house. We, like we said before, our charts have a lot of similarities. But one of the visions I had when you did that was there were lifetimes where we were warriors and we would go to war and we would fight and kill, and then after we won the war we would celebrate, and then we would drink, and we would have our lusty wenches or whatever, and we would do those things until such a time that we were full, right? We were satiated,
Right.
and then we'd start fighting with each other or looking for others to fight with, and so the king would find a war for us. Go conquer another country because you guys are destroying my hometown. Right?
That's pretty classic definition of Mars and Aries.
It is the classic definition.
An unaware or unevolved Mars
And
and
in
Aries.
this lifetime, we don't get to rape and pillage and kill the villagers. We have to find a different way.
Yes, which is probably good.
Well,
that we
it's
don't rape
definitely
and kill.
good.
Yes, but yes, absolutely. The energy is still there. It's
Channeling it in a different form.
raw energy that
Absolutely.
needs to be used
Yes.
somewhere.
Yes.
And
And in this
so
lifetime, we decided to come back as women and find a different way.
here we are.
There are still times where I could just pull the sword and cut the head and be happy.
I tell you what, I can't count how many times both Sonia and I have said to each other, I just want to burn it all down.
If I could just kill this, then it would be okay. I'd have no more problems. I'm just going
Yes.
to kill them all,
Right.
and then I'll be fine. Oh, wait, I don't get to kill anybody in this
No.
lifetime? Okay.
I just throw fire.
Yeah, with the dragon.
With the
You
dragon.
did get a dragon back
I did
this time,
get a
though.
dragon, yes.
I'm still bound.
And she rocks. She's an amazing dragon.
I didn't get my I didn't get my wings back this time. No, I'm great, but you got to come to me because they won't let me go nowhere. I get into trouble when I go visit other places.
Oh man. Those
Parts of
dragons.
Fortune and Aries. Hello. So being present also allows for you to not pull from past resources,
Right.
or anticipate things that might not occur.
Right.
Just because they happened in the past doesn't mean that they're going to happen moving forward. I like to say that all the time. When people go, oh, I always, or I never. No. What I say is, although it may have been true in the past, moving forward, it can be different.
Yes.
And that has been a huge battle, or a huge pushback against that always and never.
We get stuck in that trap with our minds. Part of being human, we get stuck in that trap all the time. And I mean, there are very, very obvious patterns, which it occurs maybe being involved in repeated abusive relationships.
Right.
Right. So there are or repeated health issues or repeated problems at work. So there are definitely repeat issues. But once we experience something negative or difficult or painful, it's really easy for us to stay there
Oh, yeah.
and recreate it. Even and then we can move that
And
to,
identify with it.
and call it who we are.
Right.
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 So totally.
And that's where the no-thingness comes into. It's not about having your mind clear of all thought. It's about knowing that you're not attached to any of it.
It's just ships.
Unless you choose to
ocean.
attach to it.
Right.
So there is no thing for you to attach to, no thing for you to be, No thing for you to believe. No thing for you to deny.
And if we have built our entire sense of identity, which the majority of us have
Right.
as humans, if we've built our entire sense of identity based off of things that have happened, things that are, things that we've done, things that we've said, it's absolutely terrifying to let go of that. I had a client where we were talking about meditation and this concept and how she won't allow herself to get to that point. And I said, she's like, and I said, so let's talk about that. Why? She's like, I don't want to lose everything I have. Okay. Well, and if everything that you have is everything that you want, then stay right there.
Right.
And that's perfect. There's no judgment.
Not at all.
And you're telling me that everything that you want is not everything that you have.
So there might be something different
to do. Yes.
Or to think, or to be, or
Right.
whatever, right? However it applies for you.
Right.
I think about when my boys were growing up and graduating, and my big thing was, if you don't go to university, then you're not going to get that degree. If you take time off, you won't go back, like all those things. You'll get a job and then you won't go to school and you won't get an education. And what I learned from my sons, because this was a belief that was imparted to me, you can't be a success unless you have a degree. And of course we've seen how this has all transformed itself. Right? And so this is why I'm sharing this. Because what I found was that they went to community college to get their associates, and they paid a quarter of what I paid for my associate's degree. And then taking it the next step further with the next child that graduated, he was in a job where they paid him, did tuition reimbursement for everything that he did. So not only did he go the community college route instead of the university to get his degree, but he also got it reimbursed by his employer. So he, in both cases, and now I've got another one that's getting ready to graduate here, that in both cases they had zero student loan debt. Not in any way, shape, or form that I wanted, that I approved of. We fought about it. And I sit here and I look at it now and I was like, hey, that worked. That worked better. Like, I didn't know that would be acceptable because of what I had come to know and understand of what was necessary to make it in this world, right? So when we have new information, we can do new things. And so looking at my kids' experience with college, which was different from mine, which, by the way, I didn't go back to college until I was in my 30s. I graduated at 16, went to college, didn't like it, worked, then went back, and then finally got a bachelor's degree. So I understood the importance of it, but I also learned that there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's 256 ways to wash a dish. So there's more than one way to get a degree. There's more than one way to meditate. There's more than one way to view and experience your life. The best way that I have found thus far is just to be present with whatever you're standing in front of in this moment.
Well, we are conditioned to see what we know we can see.
Absolutely.
And so, and we all are, all of us. And that may be wider or narrower for different people. It's still the container in which we are in until we choose to step out of that container. And understand that, I mean, have you ever, everyone has experienced this. You're looking at a new car to buy, and suddenly they're all over the place.
It's your reticulator activator.
Yes, you see it everywhere. It's all over the place. Or you buy a new car, right? I bought my Toyota Corolla, and good Lord, everyone had them.
How many times were you, when you were pregnant, if you were, a woman that got pregnant and had a baby, and you see pregnant women everywhere.
Right.
I mean, it's the reticulator activator in the brain. Once you identify in something, you see it in everywhere. Where maybe you never noticed it before. I wanted a Ford Flex. I saw Ford Flexes everywhere.
Yes.
And still, when I see one, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I still want one of those. And going back to what I was saying before, so with my youngest one now that's graduating here next month, the most important thing for him, he can do whatever he wants to do, however he wants to do it. I now think it's important that he has a trade of some sort.
Right.
Because what we have seen to come and understand in the last year is that we have frontline workers, we have essential workers, and then we have non-essential workers, right? And your jobs may or may not be fleeting, but having something, a craft, a trade, something that you can do is always something you can fall back on in the lean years. And to me, that's more important than getting a degree that's going to go out and get you a high-paying job. Because that high-paying job may or may not be there. I mean, we look at how many jobs are going to be eliminated. I read something about, these like 25 industries that won't exist 20 years from now.
With the restructuring, I mean, what occurred with COVID last year and the financial kickbacks we're seeing and feeling now, positive and negative, whatever label you want to give,
right.
We are going to be going through the next 10 years, and the astrology is pointing at this, to a complete financial restructuring.
Right.
And there are a lot of guesstimates by people who know things that are saying,
in quotes,
yes, that this is positive, this is negative. But the fact is, as from what I have seen, everyone can agree that the restructuring is going to happen.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
And I was surprised too. I read an article yesterday about how many people quit their jobs during the COVID. They just, they got furloughed or laid off or whatever, and then they just decided to not do that anymore, to do something different. And I see that, and I find that, like, that's exactly what this is about. Like, yeah, okay, if you don't know now that things are supposed to shift and change, and they are, then you need to wake up pretty quick, because this happened exactly for that reason. This happened exactly for us to look at and assess and make some new decisions collectively as well as individually.
Right.
And I mean, we're living this right now.
Right, absolutely. And so that's when we fall back to, in my belief, right, this incredible things are occurring on this planet. Incredible, I mean that, both negative and positive.
Sure.
The energy of change is occurring, however it's manifesting. It's incredible, powerful energy. And so with that being true, do you want to stick with the thought patterns that had you where you were before COVID hits? Or do you want to teach yourself to open up to present so that you can see those things that you would not have seen previously?
Right. And if you are paying attention right now, you will see that this energy, this experience that we're all having together right now, this co-vibe, is teaching us to be in the present moment.
Right.
I have people that are like, can't make plans because I don't know, I'm going to have to see what it's going to be like when that time comes. Right?
Right.
Like, I want to go visit someone, but let's wait to see if the numbers go down or whatever. It makes it really hard to plan, and it's making it really hard to think about things that are from the past, because those options are no longer available to us. Like, we are being forced to be present. If you think about it, we really are.
I heard someone, because there's a lot of talk about how businesses are finding it hard to hire people. Like, they're not coming to work,
especially in the restaurant industry.
And so there's a lot of talk. One point of view is, well, you give them all this free money, then they're going to be lazy. So that's one point of view.
The wrong point of view, in my opinion. She's not going to say, I'm going to say that's the wrong point of view.
But the point of view that resonates for me is, people have realized that, you know what, I don't have to do your shit job for your shit money. And even if I have to work harder and do 5 different things, I get to have control over my life. Now, I think we can continue to up and improve that, so
Right.
we don't have to do 5 different things and scurry around. But the point is that people are taking responsibility, not that they hadn't. People are taking the opportunity for this change to acknowledge and do things that they wouldn't have or were scared to,
Right.
because it didn't make logical sense,
Right.
and then they had to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, that's amazing. So we're getting people who are able to take care of themselves, and those companies or those industries that brutalized their employees
Yep.
don't get to do it anymore.
The
I've
unionization of Amazon. Hello.
I worked in the restaurant, and
Right.
I worked at bars, and I wasn't brutalized.
No.
But I know many
But perhaps you were
stories.
marginalized.
Oh, there were all sorts of things.
Right.
It was, yeah.
And, yeah, I totally,
And I think that's exciting.
I do too. I think it's absolutely exciting. Why do anything that you don't want to do for any reason? I don't, like,
And that's a huge shift.
it is a huge.
I mean, but you're also talking to people who have decided not to do things that they didn't want to do basically years ago.
Early on.
Right. So it's
Born that way.
It may be easier for us to be sitting here talking
Sure.
about it.
But now everybody else is getting that shot too, where before I could have had a conversation with someone and they couldn't see it. Like, no matter what I said to them, and there would be people where I would just be like, well, you just don't want to get it, so there's no point in talking to you anymore. Shame on me. I'm not going to lie. Shame on me. I gave up on you, and I apologize for that, because you just couldn't see or understand what I can and
Right.
do.
Right.
Because I was made differently than that. And that was one of the things that I had to learn about myself in respecting other people's boundaries. I may be able to see it as clear as mud, but that's not your experience. So who am I to judge you for your inability to see what I see?
Right.
I mean, and so I apologize to those that I've done that to over the years, and I know I have. I've shit on people's boundaries. I know that. I learned that when I learned about boundaries. And forgive me, I didn't have any boundaries until I learned about boundaries, and then now I do, and I try to be better with that. But one of the other things that I was thinking about when you were talking, though, was also the fact that with all of this shifting and changing that's happening for everybody, I was watching this program because I spent the day in the kitchen yesterday making up a bunch of moisturizers and stuff. And so I turned on, the Prime Video or Netflix. No, I think it was Amazon Prime. And there was this program called The Great British Handout. It was so funny. I was looking for a British baking show, and I found this British Handout. So I thought, well, let me see what this is about. And essentially, it's about people that are on, that receive benefits. And they go off benefits. They get $26,000 in a lump sum, and they have to go off benefits. And then they get the opportunity to see if this is going to change their lives. And the welfare people that were doing this had done this successfully in other parts of the country, so they brought it to the UK.
Interesting.
Oh, it is such an interesting. It was only made 2 seasons, and according to what I read, apparently it was an abysmal failure. But I disagree with that. Maybe not everybody had the outcome, but I can guarantee you that those people that went through that experiment were able to see themselves and understand themselves in a different way. Maybe they went back to their lives. Maybe they went back on benefits. Maybe they couldn't make it. There was one that actually became very successful business. It transformed his life and his life of his family. But when you have that type of, like in one case, this woman was in like her 50s. She had been on benefits out of high school. She'd never worked a job in her life. But she'd always had this dream, and with the money, she was able to achieve this dream. And if you don't have that experience, it's really hard for you to understand what it's like for someone to be in that mindset. You can see from the outside quite clearly how easy the solution is.
Yeah.
But if you've ever had the experience of having to live hand to mouth, and then listening to these people just be so open, and then they did stupid things. The first thing they did was they went out and they bought a PlayStation 5 for their son because he wanted one and never had anything. And to sit there and listen to them go, $39.99 for one game. And to realize that that would have been like a week's allowance for them to live on. Mm-hmm. And they used it to spent it on one game. I mean, that really makes you think. And it made them think. You could see them.
Right.
Going through this, how am I going to do, and this is great. And then some of them going, oh, the money's going so fast. And I'm so afraid that I'm not going to be able, I'm going to have to go back on benefits again. I just found it such an interesting look at where we're at today. So if you get a chance and you watch it, you might enjoy it. And not so much even just about their experience, but just about any experience. You could plug anything into that,
right,
and see it through that lens and recognize that where you sit today and where you could be tomorrow is only separated by your fear,
right,
of the unknown.
Right.
That's it. Nothing else. Because that is big enough of a limitation to handle all the other things.
Right.
And when you are present in the moment, that fear is not there. Or even if it is, you're sitting with the fear. And you're allowing yourself to say, okay, I feel like in this moment, I cannot achieve that. What is that about to me? What
Right.
does that mean to me?
Right.
Why do I believe this? When you start asking those questions and watching these people have this understanding, to sit and listen, and like there was one situation where there was somebody that was so excited they'd made $1,000, and then he said, okay, but how much of that, like how much did you actually make in profit, because you spent a lot of money? So she gave him all the numbers of what she spent and how much for gas and how much to rent the space and this, that, and the other. She made $9.41. And it made her, you watched her go from, I made $1,000 or 1,000 pounds to I made £9.41. And then she shifted again into that space of, well, then I guess I'm going to have to look at this differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have to make some changes, because 9 pounds a day or a week is not enough to live on.
Right.
So the ability to be able to look at where you're at and then go, okay, what needs to shift? And then how am I going to shift it? Or do I need to do anything to shift it? And then allow that to transpire is what allows for you to recreate your life. It's just brilliant.
Right.
And it's the easiest and the hardest thing you'll ever do.
And that's the amazing thing. It's difficult until you've done it, and then you don't understand what the difficulty was.
It's so true. I don't know why this was so hard.
Yeah, who's done that, right? You made a change in your life that maybe you dreaded or were scared of, and you look back on it, you're like, what the
Right. Right.
What the hell was the issue with that? And it was all because of where our mindset was, and through practice or just, hard-headedness or taking advantage of opportunities that came up, we finally broke through that thought that we had, and we're like, I don't even understand what the issue was.
So true. I think about how many times I'm a rip the Band-Aid off kind of person, because I absolutely hate anticipation of confrontation. I don't mind confrontation. I very much dislike the leading up to the confrontation. So I will go and seek and find you so that we can have it done, just so that I can feel better about myself.
We need to have confrontation right now.
And one of the brilliant punishment techniques that I had was that when my kids did something wrong, I didn't immediately punish them or talk to them about. I made them wait. One, I wanted to calm down so that I wasn't irrational. But what I found while I was trying to calm myself down is that it drove them insane, waiting to find out what their punishment was going to be. And oftentimes that itself was the punishment.
Right.
And they'd come back to me, could you just tell me or spank me or whatever? And I'm like, I told you I will deal with you when I am ready.
Well, I think that's fitting for humans. What we do to ourselves in our own mind, we don't need anyone else.
No.
We don't.
Absolutely not.
the shit that we put ourselves through in our own head
is worse than any punishment your mother or father could have given you.
And it's true in so many ways.
And oftentimes, a lot of times I'll come back and be, so have you had a chance to think about what you did? Yes, and I'm sorry. Okay. And then they look at you like, that's it? Well, if all I'm here to do is to help you learn your lessons and you learned it, why do we need to add corporal punishment to that list? Right? You've already been punished. I can see it. You've articulated to me that you recognize what you've done wrong and you're willing to shift it. And then if I'm willing to give them a break, why, or give myself one too?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Then I don't feel like the bad parent. I don't have to do things that I don't like to do, which is yell or restrict or what have you. I want to be the fun person, that has good times with the children, but sometimes you have to be the parent. And when you have to be the parent, you must parent. So be your own parent.
Right.
Love yourself enough to discipline yourself into a better life by being present
Right.
with what is.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say besides
I don't
that.
even know what to say after that.
56 minutes, that's an 11. I feel complete.
And I would just say I agree. We'll leave it at that. Beautiful.
So, may you have a beautifully present week that is filled with wonderful and unexpected delights and all your problems solved.
Thank you for listening. I just keep getting, no, we're done. We're done.
So until next week.
That's right. I am Piperlyne.
And I am Sonya Lee.
At In My Experience podcast. Thank you for joining us, friends. Take care of you.
Talk soon. Ciao.